whole. Now, let's get things underway. Can I ask Martin Hewitt, Chair of the National Police Chiefs Council, and first, Marc Jones, the Chair of the Association of Police and Crime Commissioners, to officially welcome you all to the summit. Please give them a round of applause.
Good morning, everybody. It really, truly is a privilege to have the opportunity to open this partnership summit alongside Martin Hewitt. And this is my second and final summit as chair of the APCC. And I know it's also Martin's final in his role as chair of the NPCC too. I can honestly say that this event has never been so timely or important, not just for policing, but also for the community safety, for criminal justice, and of course for victims and the public that we all serve. The agenda is packed full of thought-provoking sessions, engaging speakers, and I hope you will all get an immense amount of value out of being here. We put a lot of effort into these summits. We know that to take up so much time out of everybody's diary, we really do need to get value that we can take back at the end of it. The public who expect and are entitled to expect the very best from our police service are looking to the leaders in this room to rise to the challenges that we all face. In my role as Lincolnshire PCC, as you would expect, I meet police officers and staff every day, and I know what a fantastic job the vast majority do in our communities, running to aid the public, often to danger, and going above and beyond in order to keep our communities safe. However, we know that without the public's confidence, we can't do everything that we need in order to reduce crime and keep them feeling and being safe. Last week's HMIC FRS report into vetting, misconduct and misogyny once again exposed some uncomfortable truths. And we can't and won't shy away from dealing with those issues. They must be tackled head on. This is owed to every member of our community and also to every one of the decent, dedicated men and women that serve their community as part of the policing family, who deserve the respect of society for everything they do for us. As with so many things, it comes down to effective leadership, setting and maintaining standards and rooting out the problems in an open way to show the public the true nature of policing and what it stands for. And when it comes to transparency with the public, we do need to be clear about what policing is for and what the public can expect from it. I was delighted when it was agreed that the whole police service was to join those forces already committed to attending all home burglaries going forward. There are very few more invasive crimes than home burglaries, and the public rightly expect to see it prioritised. Alongside this comes the need to ensure the way crime is recorded reflects the true nature of crime occurring in our neighbourhoods. You only have to look at the crime survey for England and Wales to see the vast difference between police recorded crime and the public's experience of crime. With 600 pages of guidance for the police to follow on recording crime and 26 ways just to close a crime file, is it any wonder that the system doesn't deliver for policing, but more importantly, doesn't work in the public interest? Policing can only work within the system it is given, but I believe that it is time to question what we need the police to record, why, and what we expect them to reasonably do about it. We need a system that is transparent, proportionate, and does not have the unintended consequence of creating an unfounded level of fear in our communities. It was 10 years ago next week that the first police and crime commissioners were elected, but policing governance goes right back to the days of Peel. We have always had public oversight of policing, as should every healthy democracy. I myself was elected in 2016, and I can say without equivocation that this current group of PCCs have never been better placed to deliver for their communities on both the policing and crime elements of their mission. Over the last 10 years, elected PCCs and now mayors and their deputies for policing and crime have established their role as the public's voice to policing. The champion of victims and survivors of crime, the convener and leader of a myriad of local partnerships, and the commissioner of countless initiatives and services to reduce crime, protect the public, and see safer communities flourish. The APCC has this year been highlighting some of these key areas where PCCs have been making a real and lasting difference, including their work to tackle violence against women and girls, crime prevention and reduction initiatives, serious violence, but more on that in a few moments, and antisocial behaviour, to mention a few. I would highlight the incredible partnership work going on the southwest to reduce the illegal drug trade through Operation Scorpion, which has seen 5 PCCs and forces join together to make their area truly hostile to those wishing to prey on their communities. Commissioners have also driven effective governance and stronger public accountability across policing, which we should all welcome. We are there to appoint chiefs and, yes, to hold them to account, but also vitally to support them in keeping our communities safe. We each have our role to play, and whilst respect for that independent remit really matters, so does our joint mission to deliver for the residents we serve. I make no apologies for highlighting the elevated level of transparency and accountability that PCCs bring to policing. We are the public's voice, and we are charged with ensuring their priorities are delivered, and we are held accountable for it. And we know we can do more. The PCC Review Part 2, published earlier this year, recommended that PCCs should be given more levers to improve criminal justice journey for victims and witnesses, something that we all very much welcome. I would make clear that this does not mean an encroachment into judicial independence. We all respect that cornerstone of our criminal justice system, but that should not be a barrier to better ways of working for the public good, something we should all welcome. One of the key areas of improvement over the last 10 years has been how PCCs have been able to move victims closer to the centre of the criminal justice system. I would at this point like to pay tribute to all of the staff and volunteers who work to support victims and survivors of crime. Whether making those initial calls to reach out to victims, delivering restorative justice, working in the sexual assault referral clinics, or as ISVAs, IDVAs, witness support, or any of the other vast array of roles undertaken. Thank you. And a word on prevention. It is the first of the Pelian principles, after all. All police and crime plans have prevention as a priority. Clearly, it is something which is significant for us all. With the right funding and investment, we can help ensure policing maintains and builds its focus on prevention. For example, the Home Office's Safer Streets Fund, first introduced in 2020, has successfully enabled PCCs and local authorities to bid for significant investment into prevention initiatives valued by communities across England and Wales. All PCCs have demonstrated their commitment to policing to tackle crime at its root causes. After all, many areas of demand for policing are driven by societal challenges that require partnership approaches that PCCs are uniquely placed to drive forward. We fully support the Policing Uplift programme, working with policing organisations to ensure that the pipeline is in place to get the strongest and widest pool of talent up to the chief officer ranks. The College of Policing is, of course, key to this mission, and I very much welcome the decisive action being taken by CEO Andy Marsh to address issues in this area and his drive to deliver real and lasting positive change in leadership and training at all ranks. I really believe the college is coming into its own at this very pivotal time. There is, of course, still debate regarding the entry routes into policing and whether a route that doesn't require the attainment of a degree is desirable. I won't make the case one way or the other here today, but what I will say is that we need a decision made quickly and we need clarity. Force leaders need to plan, and we need this issue put into bed once and for all. As I mentioned earlier, PCCs have a key role in tackling serious violence. They are leading work in the 20 most affected areas using funding from government to establish multi-agency violence reduction units. They are bringing together local government, the voluntary sector, health agencies and law enforcement to jointly work to reduce levels of serious violence in their communities. Other areas, such as my own, haven't received the central funding, but have still prioritised violence reduction and are driving public health approaches to see the violence fall for the long term. When I stood here last year, I spoke of my desire to make the APCC the home of policing governance for the UK. I'm delighted that this year our membership has grown with the addition of the Scottish Police Authority, alongside the Civil Nuclear Police Authority, the Ministry of Defence Police Authority and British Transport Police Authority. I'm ambitious for the APCC to truly be the voice of UK policing governance, and I'm confident that our membership is still growing. By working together this way, we can share best practice and learning as we strive for an ever more efficient and effective police service for our communities. And policing governance has never been so important. Yes, there are key areas we will work closely with policing, but we must never forget that our role is to hold policing to account. Our approach to partnership working has Our approach to partnership working has been refocused as well. We have significantly strengthened ties with local government association, initiating a number of work streams on key issues, including tackling antisocial behaviour, substance misuse, violence and civility in public life. Policing must be transparent and accountable. Between us, we need to develop a modern policing service that is agile enough to prevent and reduce crime in a challenging and ever-changing environment. Whether it is developing a better digital capacity, including getting teams to connect properly, which is the bane of my life, and I'm sure everybody else is in the room, tackling serious violent crime, or providing the neighbourhood policing that we know people desire and deserve. Policing needs a whole system approach in order to make that difference. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. And thanks for travelling to be here with us today. It was looking a little dodgy a couple of weeks ago with the train strike, but we are all here. And your support and attendance is hugely appreciated by me, by the sponsors and our exhibitors, and also a particularly warm welcome to those who are joining us remotely. So as Mark said, this will be my last summit speech as NPCC chair. In April next year, my 4-year term will come to an end, and I'm delighted to be handing over to Gavin Stevens, Chief Constable of Surrey Police. And I know Gavin will provide excellent leadership for NPCC in the really important role that it will continue to play. And I've no doubt that the coming years will be no less lively than the ones that I've lived through. The theme of the summit this year is cutting crime and building confidence. But before I get on to that, I just want to reflect on the past year and also on my time in this role. So as the chair, I've felt immense pride in my profession on many occasions. I'm incredibly proud at how the service rose to the challenge of COVID. We policed the regularly changing regulations, often different across the 4 nations, with one policing approach, and we maintained public confidence throughout. The last year has seen some of the largest gatherings and ceremonial occasions in our lifetimes, encompassing times of collective celebration and mourning. And these have all been matched by effective and professional policing operations on quite an incredible scale, drawing on the capability of every force in the UK. From Police Scotland's operation to support COP26 climate conference in Glasgow a year ago, to the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham this summer. And 2022 will also be remembered as the year that we sadly lost our longest reigning monarch, Queen Elizabeth II, triggering a well-rehearsed and meticulously planned 10-day operation. The policing of the period of national mourning, the accession of King Charles III, and the state funeral was the largest ever ceremonial operation that we've done. More than 5,000 officers from across the UK ensured security so that the public could pay their respects safely at events across all 4 nations. And those officers came from 47 police services, as well as British overseas territories, including Gibraltar, the Falkland Islands, and Bermuda. Elsewhere, officers continue to demonstrate professionalism, tenacity, and resilience when responding to increasingly challenging protest activity. This week, we're seeing protests on the road network, but a combination of proactivity and preparedness has meant that we've been able to reopen the busy motorways quickly. And working with government and other agencies, we continue to use civil injunctions as well as our criminal powers to minimise disruption. And I'm sure some of you this morning are seeing on the media, this morning we've had an Essex police motorcyclist who's been injured responding to one of the demonstrations on the motorway there. Thankfully not seriously, but I think it really brings home the point of the damage that can be caused. Policing is not anti-protest, but we are pro-responsibility and for having due regard to the rights of others. And we will continue to take all appropriate action against anyone who deliberately chooses to protest outside of the law. I'm also proud of the collective commitment made by police chiefs to deliver transformative change in how we tackle violence against women and girls and in our relationship with Black people. 2 critical issues in retaining the trust and confidence of all communities. Chiefs across England and Wales have committed to a programme of change through the Police Race Action Plan to achieve an anti-racist police service. And over 5,000 organisations and individuals have provided feedback on the first iteration of the plan, which will shape its future development and delivery. And every force in England and Wales has its own local action plan aligned to the NPCC and College of Policing VORG framework. Ops Soteria Bluestone is now active in 19 police forces. And as a result, independent sexual violence advisors in some of the forces are saying for the first time in a long time, they can truly recommend that rape victims should speak to the police. But I've also experienced some of the darkest moments as a police officer. I've repeatedly felt shame at hearing the actions of some individuals in our service and deeply regret that we didn't get these people out sooner. Last week, I responded to HMIC FRS's inspection on vetting, counter-corruption and misconduct on behalf of chiefs. And whilst the inspectorate agreed the vast majority of vetting decisions and found the majority of misconduct investigations were effective, that still leaves a deeply concerning number of decisions that were just plain wrong and dangerously wrong, allowing predators or wholly unsuitable individuals to join or stay in policing and to do harm to their colleagues or the public. That simply is not good enough. The report listed previous inspections, strategies and action plans shared over the past decade that warned of problems and gave specific recommendations for change. And I know better than most that after each of those interventions, police forces took action. I know there have been many improvements and effective new initiatives over the past decade, but it has been made abundantly clear that it hasn't been enough. It hasn't been comprehensive and consistent enough. It hasn't ensured the highest standards in our vetting and misconduct, and it hasn't eliminated pockets of toxic culture. The surveys and interviews conducted by the inspectorate show too many women in policing have experienced predatory and misogynistic behaviour and that they've been let down by the response. And a recent survey of black officers and staff, which is due to be published in December, has shown incidents of racial microaggressions, discrimination and harassment are common and prevalent. And we also know that other minoritized groups, LGBTQ+, disabled people and other ethnic minorities, inside and outside policing have real concerns. And I want to speak directly to all of those who've had the courage to raise those concerns. Thank you for speaking out. You are doing the right thing. You are contributing to the change that you want to see, so keep doing it. And I'm sorry that you've experienced behaviour that you shouldn't have faced and that you've been let down by the response. And I'm sorry that the weight of the worry that that's caused. But now a message to all the police leaders in this room. Individually and collectively, locally and nationally, we must now take that burden from those who've carried it for that time. We must solve the problems urgently, fully, and for the long term. No piecemeal change or half measures. Public confidence and the confidence of our people depends upon it. And I commit to doing everything in my power alongside all of our NPCC leads in this area, the College of Policing, the Home Office, the IOPC, to support the changes that we must make. So, cutting crime and building confidence are ambitions shared by all of us in this summit, including the Home Secretary and the Police Minister. More importantly, it's what the public expects and deserves. And a few reflections on how we can make that ambition a reality. We've made considerable gains in reducing and preventing crime. The number of burglaries is down 51% in the last decade due to prevention and investigation work. The latest ONS figures show falls in robbery, vehicle offences and crimes involving knives and firearms. But we're solving 50% less crime than 7 years ago. Our capabilities to tackle the 4.5 million frauds a year are still too limited, and the public are noticing, and confidence is on a downward trend. We want to focus on volume crime like burglary and the most harmful violent crimes like domestic abuse, rape, knife crime and murder. We want to invest more heavily in neighbourhood policing to tackle crimes and local problems, and also to build connectedness and legitimacy with all the communities so that we can truly police in partnership. And we must also continue our fight against the enduring and ever-changing threats from organised crime, terrorism, cyber-enabled criminality by working with partners at an international, national, regional and local level to prevent those harms. But we are held back from focusing on these core responsibilities, and we need the government's help to change that. Firstly, the vast widening of the policing mission needs to be taken on. There are various figures and estimates that I could use, but I don't think there's any doubt that over half of all calls for service that we receive are for something other than crime. Now, some of that is entirely legitimate police activity, but a substantial proportion see police stepping in to health and social care work because of an absence of other service provision. This issue has been raised at every one of these summits, and I and many others have discussed it with every recent Home Secretary and policing minister. But there has been no meaningful change, and that needs to happen if we are to improve crime reduction and detection rates. I know the government want us to get the basics right, so I'm hopeful and optimistic that they will want to support us in finding solutions to this issue. Secondly, I reiterate our calls for the Home Office to review the crime recording standards. Currently, the process presents a misleading picture to the public about the levels of crime because there are many incidents recorded as crimes that will never be solved or prosecuted, and in some of those are not even crimes in reality. Police recorded crime tells the public that crime's at an all-time high, but the Crime Survey of England and Wales, which measures people's actual experience, shows crime is falling and is much lower than 20 years ago. There must be a better way to give the public both accuracy and transparency. Last year, our lead on crime reporting estimated that close to 1,200 officers and staff are involved in ensuring compliance with crime recording in England and Wales at a cost of around £47 million annually. If we can reduce the bureaucracy currently involved in the process and could free up just half of those staff as a result, that could mean something like an additional 300 new neighbourhood police officers. That's about 7 for every force in England and Wales. And my final point there is around the criminal justice system, which desperately needs reform. The Director of Public Prosecutions just last week said that the backlog of defendants awaiting Crown Court trial has reached nearly 75,000. This is not a new issue. Many of the problems existed long before the pandemic had its inevitable impact on the efficiency of the system. We need a robust model that works from end to end. And that was a manifesto commitment in 2019 to hold a royal commission into the criminal justice system. Now, that model I accept has its downsides, but I continue to support and ask for the need for a comprehensive independent review. Addressing those 3 key issues will mean that police chiefs can direct more resources to solving crime and meeting the public's priorities, and justice will be delivered more quickly and effectively. Strengthening police culture so that it's more inclusive, better at listening and involving the public in its decisions, and has the highest professional and ethical standards is as important as crime fighting. If there is any doubt about that, reading Baroness Louise Casey's interim report into misconduct in the Met and HMIC FRS's report from last week should dispel it. We must act in this area. Where we struggle to explain that action that we're taking, or we don't think it's having a positive impact, then we should reconsider it. But if we get accused of being woke when we take action that we know is effective in building trust, and building that trust with people where that increased trust is needed, we must stand tall, we must champion it, and we must defend that action. We're all rightly skeptical of tokens or gimmicks, where practical people and meaningful action and that works is what we need. My time chairing the NPCC has seen the first significant financial investment in policing since 2012, with the recruitment of the additional 20,000 police officers through the Uplift programme. That government investment has allowed us to put more officers into response and neighbourhood teams and to bring in new direct entry detectives. The seeds, however, of many of our current performance challenges were sown in those years of austerity. And despite the very welcome recent investment, officer and staff numbers remain lower than a decade ago. We all know that the country is facing serious economic challenges and the government has extremely difficult decisions to make about public spending. And it's sobering to reflect that even without any other changes, the estimated additional cost pressures for police forces in 23-24 amounts to £1/3 billion. If the uplift in police officers is not maintained, the benefits of the growth since 2019 will be lost. More pressure on other public services means more pressure on the core policing mission. We all know that underfunded public services are not reforming public services, and good performance is built on certain and sustainable funding. I urge the government to factor this into their decisions. A cash-starved police service and criminal justice system will struggle to make necessary changes and improve public and victim satisfaction. Many of those issues that I've discussed or I've spoken about are the ones that we will discuss in a lot more detail over the coming 2 days from a range of perspectives. I think it gives us a really important opportunity to get underneath the skin of these things and how we're all going to collectively take them forward in the years ahead. So let's get on to those important discussions now. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Martin, and thank you, Mark, as well. Now, on to our first panel discussion, which will look at one of our key themes for the conference: cutting crime and improving outcomes.